Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Bearded Finisher Podcast. I'm excited to dive back into our conversation from Monday. If you missed it, make sure to go check out part 1 because we covered some incredible topics. We're going to be picking up right where we left off. There's so much more to unpack, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So without further ado, let's jump back in and continue the discussion. I appreciate you guys being here, and here we go.
I mean, when you get to those guys those areas that are a little more remote, you know, you've got guys like Chade or Adam who are willing to travel and get them out there to get the professionalism. So I used to always tell people when they asked me, like, why would I use that versus just getting myself a stainless steel hood made. So I would always say, and that's where I'm going to kind of lean on you to kind of help people explain it, where if you're doing 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch MDF and you want to do a rounded corner, that is very difficult with some metals like copper, and it's expensive.
It just doesn't bend.
It doesn't bend like that. Like, you can't get those rounded smooth corners. So you can build something out of MDF, get yourself a good bonding primer, and then put the Vero on top of it. And for all intensive purposes, when this project is done right, the consumer or the architect or the interior designer is not going to be able to tell if that thing is made out of wood or if it's made out of metal.
No, absolutely not. I mean, that was always the fun part in the beginning when I would go into my architect colleagues or, you know, some of my architects that I was dealing with. I'd stick a sample in their hand, and every time they just were trying to process what they were seeing because it just didn't make sense to them. But I'm like, and then I say, and I sprayed it on there, and they're just like, you know, their mind. So I understand again, because we've taught some metal guys, some really elite players that have come into our shop. And there's one guy out in LA who's just an incredible metal guy. And I'll never forget it. His name is Martin, and he had a bronze sample that he had just polished that day, second day of our training. And he said, man, I cast bronze. And he said, in the previous years, he said, I spent $300K on metal, just metal, not like a finished product, just $300,000 on metals last year. And he said, you know, you could put me out of business. The only way I can tell the difference here is the physical weight of yours. You know, and so the other part of this is that what's out in the market that's called bronze, architectural bronze, is not bronze. It is brass. It is a modified brass. Our metal is bronze. Yeah, this is a big deal. The only way you can get bronze is to cast it, or this way. So yes, you can do completely complicated shapes that, you know, some metal guys probably can do, but they're incredibly rare, and they come with a, you know, huge sticker price. And you might wait a year to even get in their schedule. So the other piece that we learned too is that when they build a metal hood, they normally build a blank out of MDF and then shape the pieces over that. Well, we're finishing the blank. We're taking the blank. Yeah, I mean, and so it is definitely more expensive than paint, but we're not competing with paint. We're competing with metal. And you can't even begin to compete with it. I mean, we did a project in New York last May in a hotel. And it took 15 months to get this thing, to do the dance in a commercial project. The architect was from Italy. The client that was basically funding the development wanted this staircase, and it was this serpentine staircase made out of steel, but she wanted it in brass, quarter-inch brass, quarter-inch outer wall, inner wall, and quarter-inch plate on the top. And it was a $500,000 ad to do it in brass, on top of whatever it cost. And that was like in the beginning. By the time, COVID happened, metal just skyrocketed. I mean, it literally has almost doubled in price in that time. So, I don't remember how they found me, but they did. So we started the dance, and then I made a custom color for them, and they wanted a brushed effect. Anyway, so we got it done on site in New York for $100K, not $500K. That's like, dude, that's 20%. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not $500,000. And you cannot tell the difference. No way.
You can't. It's amazing.
You've seen it.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I used to pitch it on cards to architects and designers, and they're just like, this isn't real. And I'm like, this is a coating.
We see this all the time where people think it's metal paint. And I'm like, no, it's not metallic paint. It's really metal. Because metallic paint, and there's metallic paints on the market, you put them on and you're done. That's all you can do with them.
Yeah, I've used a lot of metallic paints. I mean, they are for what they are. Like you said, there's a need for them. But
absolutely,
yeah,
this is a different thing. So what we're seeing right now is, metal is very popular in the design space, and there's a lot of people that do iron and steel, but there's not a lot of people that do brass and bronze, or do it well. I'll say that. So there's a few savings that we say to designers and architects, because again, you're speaking their language in things that resonate with them. So when you're talking to stakeholders as in like an architect and an engineer, and you want to do the outside of a building, a quarter-inch piece of bronze, which, I mean, not architectural bronze, but bronze. If it was cast bronze, I mean, a quarter-inch stuff would, I mean, it's probably, I can't even fathom how many hundreds of dollars a square foot it would be. But it comes with a serious weight. So it's like 12 pounds per square foot for a quarter-inch bronze, which is significant weight. So you can take a composite backer that's quarter-inch, that's probably a quarter of the weight, and put my product on top of it, and now you don't have to have substructure on your building, which is literally millions of dollars savings and time. So that's one path. The other path is, say, on cabinetry. Again, designers want to skin doors with metal, but there's really not a hinge system that can handle the weight, or they don't bend well. You can't do a raised panel. It's all just a flush panel. And so, and they, as I said, there's just not a hinge system that can tolerate. So if you're going to say put, 22 gauge, which is pretty thin, you got to keep it from deflecting. It just doesn't work at an elite level. So with our product, there are no seams. It'll mold to whatever profile. You can patina it just like metal. I mean, it's just, there's an endless thing. And again, in our system, for those people and companies that go through training, we have a mixing metals calculator where we can teach you how to make a custom color, and it does all the math for you, that's a big deal, dude.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. We talked earlier about the business side of it, and you get into, the amount of time, and I had a ton of spreadsheets for custom colors, custom formulas to give me weights. And I mean, that's a whole nother skill set in itself, but to not have to have that and have it done for you, I mean, that's huge.
It is. So, like we alluded to, color skills they're just so rare. And so one of the things I offer my customers, because on my bespoke side, I make, when I had time, which I don't right now, so don't call me, is I make custom colors for companies. And that is really, here's a set of directions to get X. Follow 1 through whatever, and X happens, not Z or Y or in the ballpark or whatever that is. So I have that elite color skill set, and then I learned how to do it with metal. And I will just tell you, making color with paint or stain is like ingrained easy for me now. But metal is a totally different. It is humbling. It is way, way humbling, because how you polish it shifts the color. And whether you're going to patina it or not, I mean, there's so many variables that you have to consider. But for the most part, I can make colors and match hardware for clients that need that. You're going to pay for it because it isn't free, because it's a rare skill set. If you want it, call me. If you don't, I get good luck trying.
So let's jump over to the business side. You and I were talking before we recorded a little bit, and just from your experience, like, the business side can often be hard and difficult to navigate. So for the guys out there, do you have any lessons that you learned the hard way, and what the outcome was and how it affected you, good or bad?
I did go to college, but never finished, and my path was in business. But I left because I was making more money finishing. But I will say this is like, business is a completely different skill set. And you really have to learn one thing, is that business is actually a game. It is a game. And you need to get good at the game. But it is a game. And sometimes it's a win-win for both sides, but most times it's not. And so you really have to look at things differently. And so, again, like the people in my community that come in, what I explain to them is that you have a skill set, that's your trade. Business is a mindset. And it really is how you think and how you navigate that space. And understand too, if you're going to scale a business, there's lots of people that have to eat at the table. And so when you're a painter, finisher, whatever, carpenter, whatever your trade is, and there are a designer, an architect, and a builder, and all those people at the table, everybody has to eat. And so you have to be able to learn how to make the money you need to make, but still leave room for them to eat at the table. And this is the hard part. People don't understand this. As an example, and one guy that I've been mentoring out in Boston, Colby. And Colby has a business, and he has a good business, but he had an opportunity to use some VeroMetal on these lamps that a designer wanted for him to do. And he called me up and he says, like, I got this opportunity and I'm going to charge him this much money. And it was a lot for one. And I said, you could do that. And I walked him through this scenario. I said, or you could say that I'm going to do this one for this much money, which is less than you want. And that you could decide, if he approves that one, that you get 6 at a time or 10 at a time for an even lower price, and you work on your process and build your process so that it takes you 2 hours to do X, and you end up making twice as much. And he was like, wow.
Yeah, and I always tell guys that there's a price to learning this stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a painful price, dude. I mean, I've had my ass handed to me more than one time.
Sometimes it happens. Like, it's just the learning curve of the product, and sometimes you take a little bit less and say, hey, you're going to be my first guy into this metal stuff, but you can offset a little bit where they feel like they're getting a deal, but you're using it as an education, but it's not all out of your pocket. You know, a lot of guys don't grasp that one.
The other side of business too is really understanding business, and most don't. And so here's the thing that I run into a lot, where I have somebody say, well, I charge $110 an hour. And I was like, that's awesome. What's your cost?
Yeah, let's break it down.
Mean? What does it cost you to do? How much do you keep at the end of the year? So you charge $110 an hour. You're not billing 8 hours a day. That is a fantasy. You know, if you're lucky, if you can actually bill 5.5 hours a day as a business owner for you, or even your staff, let's say they work 8 hours, you pay them for 8 hours, but they actually earn, on a good day, 6.5. So there's a cost to that other hour and a half that's coming out of your pocket. Where are you capturing that?
Marcus Lamona says, I mean, I always like him. You got to know your numbers. It's not just about what you're charging, but you got to know it all the way back down to, you know, the fuel it costs you to get there. You know, how many trash bags did you use on the job site? And that's what everyone forgets. I mean, that's the part of that always mind boggles people.
So again, in this community we've really taken time to educate those that want to be mentored. And, you know, and honestly, Zach, as this gets bigger, and this is not going to be a little thing. This is going to be a monster in the industry. I know that. And, you know, what has been incredibly satisfying is I've had other companies and people that I don't know or didn't know reach out to me and say, you know, wow, I've watched what you've done here. This is impressive, because it's been pretty fast.
I mean, yeah. I mean, but that's got it. I mean, how does that make you feel when you hear that? Like, I mean, I would feel like I would hear that and you'd be like, yeah. I mean, it's got to be.
It's a lot to take in, actually. It really is, Zach. I mean, again, because sharing some of my backstory of like not even thinking I had a seat at the table anymore, and then to again just believe. And I will say a couple things here too, is that when I didn't have VeroMetal in my arsenal, so to speak, and I was consulting and working with companies. And so I was working with companies in the wood product space, in the finishing realm, who wanted to have better outcomes, because lots of people are good at building shit and suck at finishing. I know you see it every day. And what's out there in the market today is so bad, it's just shocking to me that people pay for it. They settle. And so I say to them before they hire me, A, that's awesome that you want me to hire me, but are your finishers willing to change? Because if they're not, don't hire me. I'm not coming. But the difference between average or above average and elite is not skill set. It's really not. It's mindset. And if you're not willing to change how and why, or from your perspective, you're not growing, period. And so for the community aspect that we have, and it's really had some powerful feedback. And as we alluded to, the women see color differently in men. And in our industry, they are an underrepresented gender, so to speak. And we need more of them we need more of everything, but we definitely need more women to want to come in this space. And so there's three that are really strong women in my community. And I mean, and it's like, I see you, I acknowledge you, I welcome you, I need your voice. Come in this space. And so there's a lot of growth opportunity here, not just as learning how to do VeroMetal. That's your entrance in, so to speak. But it really teaching you business skills, teaching you life skills, because I have all this experience. That doesn't mean that you have to do it. I'm just sharing because I'm willing to. And, I have colleagues or contemporaries who are also an elite level in their whatever that are not opening. They're arrogant.
I've never really understood that side of it where people don't want to share their knowledge. Because, I'll get random calls from guys all the time. And, it's the fun part about this business, and any business to me, is sharing your knowledge and seeing someone take that, understand it, and grow and just be like, holy shit, that changed my life. Like, you don't understand what it did. And it happens.
It is powerful. Like you talked about Chade. Again, Chade, I trained Chade in February of 2020, literally before COVID happened. And here's a guy that's in the panhandle of Texas who is a good finisher, but he's out in the middle of nowhere. And so where people come in and say, well, I can't sell, you can't make money with VeroMetal in my town, I'm just telling you, that is total bullshit. So look at this guy. So he comes in, he works his butt off to get good at it. I see it. I'm like, hey, you're doing this thing. I said, that's super exciting. And then as we've kind of gotten to know each other and really acknowledged his growth, I was like, hey, you want to come along on this journey? Because this is going to be a wild rocket ship ride for you. And, but man, it'll be fun. And you're going to grow your brand on a scale I can't even tell you. You will not even be able to believe it. But trust me. And man, he's out in Colorado on this project we're doing right now, which the clients gave us media freedom, which is super rare at an elite level. It is very, very rare. But that was kind of one of the caveats for me to be involved.
I was actually trying to get Chad on the show, and we were trying to work on schedule. He's like, I got to go to Denver, and then after that, go to the Northeast. I'm like, all right, we'll just... When Robert leaves you alone for a couple of days, just call me and we'll squeeze you in.
Like, hey, like we say, is you can't grow by yourself. You just can't. There's no way. A continent is a giant place. And again, you're introducing a segment that doesn't exist in the minds of most people. When I took on VeroMetal, I would say probably in all of North America, 1,000 people knew this was even possible. Maybe.
Probably less.
And there's 350 million people in the United States and Canada alone. Probably more than that. So 1,000 that know this is even possible. So you go to architects and designers and they're like trying to process, what are you talking about? You have to put it in their hand.
I've witnessed it. I can attest. When you tell them liquid metal, they're just like, oh, it's a paint that looks like metal. And you're like, no, it's actual crushed metal. And they're just like, that doesn't exist. It does. But you're right. You have to put it in their hand.
When you put it in their hand, they can't spec it fast enough, dude. They can't write a check fast enough. You're solving a humongous problem for them, because that's all sales is, solving problems.
I was talking to, Chad with Surf Prep the other day, and it's exactly what we were talking about. Sales is the first part is relationships, and the second part is solving problems. I don't care what it is. If you have that skill set, make relationships and solve problems, you can sell anything.
Right, but from my perspective too, is like when I again was hurt all those years and trying to figure out what I was going to do, I just couldn't go sell shit I didn't believe in. I'm just not wrapped that way. I mean, honestly, sure. I mean, there is a science to selling, a psychological science to selling, so you can sell whatever to anybody. That's awesome. I don't care. I mean, for me, if there's one thing I bring to the table, it is integrity. And it is the most important thing to me, way more than money, is my integrity. So when I say X, it happens, period.
Passion and having your non-negotiables and how you're going to operate. Those are some other key characteristics that I would agree that are often underlooked, that I don't think about them because it's just like core values. Those are just my values.
Absolutely.
It's not really that's just inbred into me. Integrity, honesty. Having passion about what you're selling. I feel like a lot of times, and I take that for granted, where that's a core value to me.
Unfortunately, it's not always common. It really isn't. I mean, I wish it was, but it isn't. So as we continue to grow out, and we're still engaging companies to distribute for us, and for me, it's, if you're going to come in the space and you want to resell my product, you have to be willing to, have some skin in the game. And I'm not just talking money, but you have to do some footwork too. Because if all you want to do is like take product and sit on your shelf and wait for people to come to you, at this stage of the game, you're not what I need. But if you are willing to come in the space and do some footwork and go chase architects and clients and go show to the people that need this product, man, the revenue that you can make as this grows is just stupid.
Have them eaten out of your hands. I mean, nuts.
Pretty much. Because again, even though there's other liquid metal companies in this space, none of them have the system. None of them are repeatable. They're an art project. And so go do that. That's fine. That's, as I said, there's different level coatings for everybody. But if you want to play in elite land and you want a system and you want a community and you want knowledge and a network and data, VeroMetal is your path.
Well, let's do outside of VeroMetal. What do you, I always like to kind of wrap up and let people know the person behind it. Like, what's your passion? What are your hobbies outside of work?
I've been kind of on a grind if you've been following my travels. My gosh,
I mean,
man.
you have.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I have a relatively new marriage, 5 years with my wife, Catherine, which has been, just incredible for me. Just like I hit the jackpot with her. She is just perfect for me. And so we got married in 2019 and then COVID hit. And so we never got to go on honeymoon. And then I took this on and the rocket ship ride happened. Anyway, so this year we're going to Italy for 2 weeks. And, of course, as somebody, hey, I'm a business person. So I have to go visit some partners in Italy. But hey, I could write it off. That's how it works, So, but that is how business works. But yes, we do like to travel, and we have grandkids now, and so that's really awesome and then, yeah, I used to like to hunt a lot, but then, when I broke my leg, I honestly haven't hunted in a long time, but just hunting birds, that was fun with dogs. That's really fantastic. There's nothing like watching a dog work. Whether you get birds or not, it's like, that's a bonus. Watching an animal work is just exciting as hell to me.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, how they get trained like that, just blows me away. If you go, pheasant, quail hunting, and they're just, they can just hunt them and just.
Yeah, it really, really is fun. But honestly, to build out a continent is not for the faint of heart, man. And I have the air miles to prove it. I think I've already 15,000 miles in this year. I did 4,000 last week. I was in 4 cities in 4 days. And I am 35, man. Let me tell you, it kicked my ass to do that. But
I'm 41, and I think that would kick my ass.
You really have to. I'm driven. I'll be honest with you. I am driven. I'm focused. I'm really good at what I do. I have connections, and I've engaged a lot of people to come into the space that we play in, and it's really exciting, as you say, to watch the light bulb go off and watch their life change. Honestly, I get emotional about it because it's almost more important. For me, it's the bigger piece. I obviously have to have money to do it, but it's kind of a legacy for me.
I can see where you're coming from on that. To see people just get that light bulb. It's just, and teaching, like I love teaching, training. It's just fun. It's just helping people excel. I had my company for 15 years in Oklahoma, and I sold it to my foreman when I sold my company in Oklahoma and moved to Texas. And he calls me every once in a while for advice or help for something, but just to talk to him, he sends me checks, but just to talk to him and he's like, like how well he's doing, and just changing someone's life like that. Like it does something to you. That's some guys that may have never been able to get that opportunity, do it, and they take it and they grab it by the horns and they take it and they own it. He has owned it so well and just been so successful in the 3-4 years that he's had it. He's grown it, and and it makes you feel good to be able to, like you say, it can get you emotional to have that effect on someone.
Last week I was having dinner in Charlotte with one of the member of these 3 women that are the 3 powerhouses in our community, and they've effectively called themselves the Badass Bitches, which that's their name, not mine. But it is so fantastic for me to see these women stand up, be empowered, be comfortable in our space, to grow and reach out to others. Dude, it's everything for me. It is everything.
I get it.
So I really appreciate the opportunity, Zach, to be on this and really to kind of preach the gospel, so to speak, of learn business. Are you going to get your ass handed to you? And there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. There really isn't. Business is not for everybody. It is not. And especially when you play at the elite level, man, there's clients out there that it is sport to burn you. It is.
Yeah.
And you really have to have a thick skin and know how to play this game. Because I don't tolerate that with anybody anymore. I've earned the right to pick and choose who I play with, which is awesome. But there was a time when I had 14 employees. You don't have that option.
Oh, I've been there.
You just have to feed
the monster.
You have to
That's what I say.
You got to feed the monster, and it is a monster, and it's not a fun monster. And it's not really why I got into whatever trade to, and sometimes, again, you're herding cats with employees. You need them to grow. That was another reason why I don't have employees like that. I don't have a crew like that because I didn't want to do that again. And to take an average finisher, or above average, or whatever finish would kind of cross my path, it takes a year to 18 months to get them to the level I needed them to play. And again, I'm not 45, dude. I didn't have the time or the patience to go down that road.
I left the corporate world and got back into doing my own thing. I'm with you. Like I don't have it in me to build something again and deal with the employees. That time has passed. I'll help people do that.
Absolutely. And there's, look, as you know, business is a rare skill set, Zach. So you have this corporate knowledge, you know how to play the game. You can come into these companies that have a space or a skill set, but need advice, need counseling, need guidance. And yes, it costs money, but
you got to think of, again, this kind of goes back to your last word. It's got to be the mindset of it's an investment. It's not a cost.
It is absolutely an investment.
Not an ROI. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your future. If you think of it like that, cost is moot.
Right. So again, I say to people is like, sure, you could choose not to go down this path and invest in me or another consultant or somebody guiding you. And you can spend 8 or 10 years learning this and getting your ass handed to you. Maybe you'll survive or not. But if you're willing to invest in yourself and get some guidance from a coach or a consultant or someone else, even training, you're going to skip 10 years. But you're going to learn it now, and now you're armed, and now you're ready for battle. But yes, there is a cost. But I mean, that's how growth happens.
Couldn't agree more. Man, this has been an awesome one. I always love these because everyone tells me, and I just looking down at the timer here, everyone's like, man, I don't know. Like 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know if I can go that long.
I could talk for 10 hours.
I've yet to have one recording go less than an hour. But I mean, that's what this is about. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to get the knowledge, whether it's business or finishing or coatings, to the masses, to the people that want to learn it. And vice versa. It's been an interesting switch talking to finishers too, and finding out what they need. And then I'm talking to manufacturers, coatings manufacturers, and equipment manufacturers. And I'm like, hey, I was talking to Denny Jans, and he said, this is something that you guys should do. Have you guys thought about that? And they're like, holy crap. Yeah, we could. If that, again, it's a problem, identify the problem and the person who can solve it. And in that realm, it was a coatings guy. And it's been awesome so far.
You know what's really interesting, and I see this a lot, and I've had conversations with pretty much all the Italian coating companies that I've come across. And I mean, when you're like at that certain level, everybody knows everybody. I mean, it's just the thing. So, I mean, I'm like, okay, here's the deal from my perspective. There has to be a mechanism for training people. And one of you guys has to step up to the table and teach. And they're like, oh, we have videos on our website. I'm like, you're so full of shit you can't even understand. They are not going to look at your freaking videos. If you invest in them, sure, some will go to another competitor. That's business. You have employees, you can't keep them all. They're going to, some are going to leave. That's your responsibility as a business owner. That's the dance you're playing. So, in Violac, Stefan, he is like, has a system now that he unveiled at Denny Jans's place. And it was,
yeah. The virus thing.
Right. And so he is trying to he has a system and he's trying to teach people. But other than that, again, all the big players, whether the Italians or who's ever in the coatings game, they all chase the drum. They all want the drum business. And I say to them almost like, okay, let's look at this from a business perspective, okay? You make no money selling a drum. You get cash flow that you can count on until they say F you and we're done. and then you got to go feed it. But there's no distributor that's going to get any of that money. At that scale, they're buying direct, period. And, and they started small. They don't start that size. So go take the smart path. Really just, you just want to slap them.
I've heard it so many times. Man, we don't sell gallons. We sell buckets and drums. I'm like,
it's like talking to a plant sometimes. It's like, they don't even absorb. I'm like, fine, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. I'll do it. And I will set a generation of people on a different path. And it's not going to be buying your stuff. They'll buy your coatings, but I'm going to teach them how to make their own color for pennies. And it's not, and it'll be the exact color they need.
So I met, it's been a couple years now, I met Luca with Adler. Great guy. I mean, I could talk to that guy for hours.
Adler's they're the mothership, so to speak, that they all buy from. So I have not had a chance to meet him, and I, would love to do that because I got
Luca's great. I'll have to introduce you to Luca.
You'll get lost for hours of conversation.
Yeah, Luca's awesome, and he's a chemist. Like his background is a chemist, so learning from him, and the owner of the company, the CEO, he's just a great guy, down to earth. He's going to come on the episode and do a show with me. So I have to maybe get together at IWF or something like that.
Well, you think they're going to be at IWF, one of them?
Luca's coming. Yeah. Last I talked to Luca, I don't think he's going to have a booth, but I think he's coming. He's going to fly in for the show.
Please make time for me. I will be there whatever day. Please let me know when that is. I will fly in to meet him because I really want to have a conversation with him. Because, microliths are it. And nobody knows about them. They don't.
No, they don't. I mean, that's what he's taught me a ton. He was in Dallas for something, and he called me up and told me, and it's great because I don't know. There's something about Italians and their love of barbecue. I don't understand what it is, but I can take. We went to lunch, and I can just take Luca to, Hutchins and buy him a brisket, and man, he'll talk and talk for hours about pigments, micronized pigments, and the uniforming nature of it, the light fastness. It's fascinating to me. I mean, I wasn't a big science person, but it just fascinates me.
They've been around for like 25 years that I've known about them. And I say microlith pigment, and people are like, what are you talking about? And I was like, dude, educate yourself.
And the micron at which they grind it they're the only ones that have the technology to grind it that fine. And we grind titanium in white paint in America all the time.
But not like this. No. And this is the problem with stain. And the piece that people don't get. It's already in liquid, so you have no idea, A, what's in the can. But the size of the pigment is why it's muddy and why it's uneven. I've been told I am lying so many times in meetings when I say, with all the stakeholders in a pre-build meeting that I'm going to not have blotch on pine or alder. They're like, why are you not telling the truth? I'm like, I'm speaking my truth. You could possibly think, hey, how is that possible? And ask me a question instead of saying, well, that's not true. Well, that's not true for you. But it is true for me, and I have decades of results to prove it. So anyway, look, we could talk for hours, man. Again, Zach, and I look forward to connecting with you in Atlanta at IWF.
Yeah, I'll meet up in Atlanta. I think I'm still planning on coming out there and seeing everybody. Want to come out there and see everybody for a couple days at least. But I appreciate you coming on, Robert. Awesome show. Full of knowledge. Go ahead and shout out your social media so people can go follow you and follow what you guys are doing.
So on Instagram, we have two profiles. One is Bespoke Finish, all one word, BESPOKEFINISH. And the other one is at VeroMetal NA, VeroMetal NA North America. That's pretty much what we have, mostly on social media. And I think, that goes to Facebook as well. But yeah, and that's a young man's game, not my game, but it's very narcissistic. It absolutely is.
It is visual. Our generation and generations younger than me are very visual. So go check out his work. Robert, again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Everybody out there, stay tuned next week for the new episode, and I appreciate you listening. Have a good day.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.